I guess what I'm trying to say is don't stop believing, get this party started. That's a quote from Modern Family. It's a show I've been obsessed with recently that I've been binging.
Nice.
And yeah, one of the kids in the show, they give like a graduation speech. I just thought it was really funny.
Welcome, everyone, to the ASMR Awful Takes podcast episode. It's episode 13. Welcome. This is us. That's how we're going to do the whole episode. I'm going to be inside your ear canal. Welcome. Sorry about that. We're trying to keep the intro light because this movie is so freaking heavy that I have to do that. Otherwise, I'm just going to be depressed. We're reviewing Grave of the Fireflies today.
Who are you?
I'm Ridley Scott's biggest fan.
I'm DJ Khaled's cousin.
Nice. We're here, episode 13. Yeah, sorry we're a little somber. I'm somber right now. I actually had watched the movie this morning, so it's still fresh on my mind. God. I've only seen this movie once before, so yeah, it was hard to get back into it. But however, I think this is a movie worth talking about. Thank you guys for joining us. We're on YouTube. If you're listening to us, we're also on Spotify. We also have our Letterboxd up where you can see all our ratings for all the movies we watch. One thing I just want to start off with, in the last episode, our After Sun review, I may have said some things that got some people upset, which is totally fine. You have every right to feel upset. I just may have said some things about my point of view that may have came across as insensitive, and that's not how I want to sound. However, I thought I was touching on something that was tying to the overall story of the movie. However, some people didn't take it that way, so I just wanted to address that. At no point when I'm talking am I trying to tell you guys how you should feel about something. I never want to do that. My opinion is not worth anything in this world. Never am I ever going to try to influence anyone or tell them how they should feel. I also want to preference that I have no expertise in anything besides being a movie fan, okay? So I'm not going to address mental health issues or personal life situations and try to give you advice on them because I have no idea what I'm talking about in those subjects. So I just want to state that, first of all, just that if I ever do say something, just please try to understand this is from my own point of view, and I'm not trying to influence anyone here at all. That's not what this show is about. So I do apologize if anyone took offense in that way. Yeah. I didn't know if you had anything you wanted to say.
Obviously, we try to be careful when it comes to sensitive subjects in film. We try to be as respectful with these topics as we possibly can. And obviously, we're still learning. We're still trying to do our best with how to navigate these topics. So we do apologize for that.
Yeah. And please feel free if any time we say something that could touch on a personal topic with you want to send us a message or something, just so we're aware of it. Obviously, we can say things and cross some lines that we don't know are there. And the last thing I would want is for anyone to feel judged or, I'm not acknowledging their own point of view. Yeah, I don't want to do that. So please, if we ever do that, just make us aware, just so that way we can try to correct the mistake. And please understand, I am not here to do that. This channel is very much to just discuss the love of movies and the love of the things in our lives that we hold significance to, whether it's movies, music, shows, things like that. That's all it is. That's all this show is ever gonna be.
Yeah, exactly. So we're here to just hopefully entertain you guys with our discussions.
Yeah.
And hopefully just give you guys like a different perspective on the films that we're talking about. So we will obviously try our best to navigate those topics and everything again next time.
So thank you for joining us if you are here, and if you're still here. Our views are looking pretty great. I'm so happy with everything.
Yeah.
I couldn't be more excited. Right now we're at 15 subscribers. Thank you, each and every one of you. And we coincidentally have 15 videos up. So what you're saying is I have to upload
100
thousands of videos,
Yeah.
and we'll get there.
Yeah, 1 million. And then we
million.
could get 1 million subscribers. There you go.
Let's start pumping them out, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Pump them and dump them, man.
Yep. So again, thank you if you're subscribed. Thank you if you're active in this, and thank you if you share it to anyone that you know. Just want to share some exciting stuff. We have more guests planned to be coming on here very soon. I'm obviously very excited about that. Again, the structure and what we provide with the show is if we have a guest on, we would like them to recommend a movie, and we watch something that maybe me or Walid wouldn't even consider. Everyone has a unique taste in what they like. So we're going to be having on more guests in the future. As of tomorrow, today's recording is August 31st. Tomorrow we are in September. And if Starbucks is any indication, we are in the fall season. And with it being the fall season, Halloween, horror movies, we see an uptick in interests like that. So me and Walid have planned out that for all of September and October, our movies and recommendations are going to focus on horror and scariness and stuff like that. Psychological horror, can be anything. It just doesn't have to tie specifically to Halloween. But I just know during this time period, I kind of want to watch a scary movie. I kind of want to, delve into that whole side of things. And we're very excited.
Our first annual Halloween special.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we have some great movies we're going to be talking about. And what we're going to try to do is we'll squeeze in some of our guests during that time. And they'll kind of serve as, their own movies and things. It's not going to fall strictly into horror movies and things like that. But horror is one of my favorite genres. So I'm excited we're here. We haven't talked about anything horror yet. So it's going to be really cool to examine some of our favorite films, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there is some stories in the news that kind of apply to some of what we're talking about, and we just thought it would be interesting to talk about right now. So what do we got?
Yeah, so there was an announcement recently that there was going to be a new Hayao Miyazaki documentary coming out, and it's going to be a mix of I guess from what I've heard, it's kind of like a nature documentary, but also just how a lot of Hayao Miyazaki's films and tie a lot of the themes that he uses, about the environment and everything. And it got me kind of curious to kind of see Miyazaki's process to how he makes a lot of his films and how he ties a lot of those themes together. It got me kind of interested to kind of see what it's going to be. I'm not sure when the movie is coming out though, or if it's going to be focusing on his childhood or anything like that, but it does have me a bit excited. I don't know what you kind of thought about that.
Hayao Miyazaki is a very influential figure in film history. Yeah, he's super important to where we are now with film. Obviously, he had a recent film that it came out that was pretty impactful in what it did and was trying to achieve. I guess with this documentary, something that kind of crossed my mind. I know it's focusing on him specifically. Usually with documentaries, sometimes views can be a little skewed
or biased.
Yeah. So I'm wondering if this is gonna do that. Obviously, Hayao Miyazaki doesn't have any real controversy following him. He's not like a controversial figure.
No.
But the only thing that I would like the documentary to touch on, that some people might be a little mad for me saying this, but it's something that I feel like it's kind of a big thing with Studio Ghibli in general. Hayao Miyazaki didn't really do a good job of setting up a successor to carry on a legacy after he is gone.
Because the closest he had was actually Yoshifumi Kondo, who made Whisper of the Heart, but after he passed away a couple of years later due to just overwork and things like that, there wasn't really much. And of course, you had Goro Miyazaki. And from kind of what I've heard with Goro Miyazaki, apparently Hayao didn't do the best job with him at all. He apparently just treated him like garbage when he made Tales from Earthsea.
And he shoots down a lot of his ideas and stuff as well. And it's like, how is this going to carry on past yourself? You know, obviously he's older. He's still making movies. He's still directing, but this is such a big legacy and it's such a big part of film culture. Why didn't he take the steps to set up someone to carry on that toward even his own son? You know, it's just like, how are you not elevating those other people around you? And I hope the documentary does kind of focus on that, because that, to me, that's
I think it's like a really important question, not only for just Hayao Miyazaki, but for like just the future of Studio Ghibli, because I'm really not sure after Boy and the Heron. Like, I don't really know what's next. Like, I know he has a new movie in development, but it's not like I can be like, well, Isao Takahata has new stuff coming out because he passed away in 2018. So he's really the only one left.
Yeah. And it would be very sad to know that past his time here and his legacy, whatever the future of Studio Ghibli is, or you know, what that might entail, Hayao Miyazaki himself didn't have a hand in passing it on, and didn't have a hand in setting up what we're going to see past him, if we see anything at all. That would just very much sadden me to think that, whoever comes in past him is kind of just doing their own thing, not really a passing of the torch to the next person, you know?
Yeah.
Granted, maybe it doesn't need to happen. Maybe years from now, when more Studio Ghibli movies come out, they might be some of the greatest films we've ever seen. We don't know. However, I would like to see him, you know, actively trying to set up a successor in a way. And it's kind of funny because that was kind of one of the little subtleties of Boy and the Heron, you know?
Yeah.
So I think he's aware of that. I think he's aware that, you know, he has this legacy and maybe he doesn't want to set anyone up. But I would like this documentary to kind of not focus on it, but, you know, show that part, because to me, that's something that we haven't really seen discussed or seen, you know, addressed in any way, I guess.
Yeah. Exactly.
But when does that documentary come out?
No date for it, but it did premiere at a festival, so it should be getting a distributor hopefully soon.
Awesome. Be on the lookout for that one.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to go check it out. Okay. Sorry. I'm sorry. God, this film. This film is unlike anything I've ever seen. I have said on this show before that when I first watched this film, it affected my life for a couple of days after I had seen it. This is an amazing film. I love it very much. However, past my first time seeing it and now rewatching it for you guys. One thing I want to address in the ending of the last episode, I said this was about to go on a theatrical run. However, I think it's only for maybe a few theaters. I don't think it's a wide release. However, the wide release, what I was thinking of is it's going to be premiering on Netflix on the 16th of September.
Yep.
That was one of the big reasons why I wanted to just talk about it, because we're going to see it on Netflix, and I cannot encourage it enough that I believe everyone needs to see this movie at least once. You got to check this out. Like, yes, it's hard. It's a hard thing to see, but it can help give you a perspective on things that you may not have considered before. So be on the lookout, guys. September 16th. This is going to be on Netflix. Please, I encourage you to watch it. We are talking about Grave of the Fireflies today. One thing I don't want to say, we're just going to be talking about this film in full discussion. Okay. I'm not going to use the term spoilers, because I feel like spoilers implies some type of enjoyment you may be missing out on if we spoil something. However, I would say this film doesn't invoke enjoyment in any way. So I don't think really anything is spoilers. We're just going to be talking about it in full discussion. Walid, what did you think of this movie?
Yeah, I really loved this movie a lot. This has to probably be the most powerful war film I think I've ever seen. From the moment it begins, you already know what's going to be happening. And you are just on this emotional ride from start to finish. I really love the animation. I feel like this film uses browns and it uses like a lot of really muted colors really well. And then on top of it, I feel like just even the subtleties in just the characters, like you, even at the beginning, you see like Setsuko's face, just how terrified she is. And I feel like it works so perfectly with the medium of animation because it's like you can show those subtleties in a way that is a bit harder to show in live action, and especially with a kid. It's really, really well done.
Yeah.
I think it really surprised me too that this film has a lot of lighthearted moments. There's a lot of moments of levity in the film. Like one of my favorite moments is where they go to the beach, and they're having this like really incredible fun time, even through all the misery that you have seen with their mother, with this kind of abusive auntie that they have that we'll get into later. But it's a really just incredible, like hopeful moment that like you would need, especially in a film like this, because it is just so tough to get through. And there are just so many moments where like you even see like she's scared to go to the shelter. Like she doesn't even want to go. So who knows how many times she's been there. And then the fact they like lose her mom and everything. And you see that one shot of her body, and my God, it's so sad. And they have to like, it's like they don't really have anybody, but the film is surprisingly just super optimistic with Seika's character, where he does everything in his power to make her as happy as he possibly can, even through this rough situation. And I feel like for me, the emotional core of this film is easily their relationship. And you feel like an outsider watching this film, seeing their experience, going through everything. Wow. One of my favorite moments in the film is where he's playing like the piano for her, and the auntie comes in, and you just kind of see her being like just super unlikable and just being like just a total ass to him. And I don't know, like that moment of like when he's playing piano for her is just like another way of him to just try to make her as happy as possible. And even though I think the auntie character is just so unlikable, you can still understand the pain that she is going through, and that she doesn't want, she wants everybody to contribute. She doesn't want people taking things for granted. And I love that the film doesn't try to villainize her in any way, even though it pisses me off. They don't have a lot also, but I don't know, this film just destroyed me emotionally, honestly. Like I really don't know if I can even put into words what makes this movie so powerful. I feel like really it's those two characters. And the film, you mentioned with spoilers, is like the film kind of spoils at the beginning. He dies, and obviously it's implied she dies too at the beginning. It's a great foreshadowing moment that they show where she rises up with the Fireflies. It's almost like the Fireflies, I see that as like a metaphor of the afterlife almost. And again, it's like you see them as like ghosts. It's like they're watching their memories and everything that they went through.
This film is it came out. If you guys watch it, I want you guys to be in the mindset that this came out in 1988. Like this was pretty pretty groundbreaking for film in general. even war films, like showing citizens on the ground level of things that are going on. Obviously, in war films, there's a distinct kind of right and wrong heroism portrayal of, a great conflict and what society and people have to do to overcome that. And this film shows that there's very great consequences to war. There are very great consequences to fighting, and you see it on the ground level from two kids. But one of the things I do appreciate with this movie is there are very real consequences behind attacking where people live. They show the raids, they show the air raids, and the consequences of that stuff. Very early on, you hear the sirens, you know what that entails. You hear
It's so terrifying.
the bombs fall, you see the flames go up, and it's like very quickly this beautiful place, this beautiful location is just changed. And you see smoke engulf everything. You see people trying to identify bodies of, do they know them? Are they my family? There are very quick shots in that beginning part of these bodies are people, sometimes in movies, they treat it as, oh yeah, that's a consequence. That's something that could have happened to the main character. However, in this movie, they show the side of it of these are people's family members, they want to find out what happened. And early on, it shows that there are casualties to war. There are people who die and end up going missing that we may never know about. They were never identified. They weren't given a name, and shows them piling them up, burning them. And while it's showing all of this, you're seeing it through these kids' point of view. They're naturally very hopeful and very trying to find the best in what's going on. But it shows that these kids can't always find that, They do cry, they show emotions, they they have questions as to where their parents are. They have questions as to what awaits them going forward, I guess a little setup. This is in the closing days of World War II. This is when America was invading Japan by pretty much any means necessary. That's where killing and dying was happening on both sides. And we wanted the quickest way out of it. And to do that, we jumped to some very extreme means to ensure our victory. And it resonates. It resonates still today. One thing while watching it, this is less than 100 years ago when stuff like this was going on. And that's a very scary thought. And things like this still happen to this day. And there's still resonance into what we're watching.
Mm-hmm. One thing that I really love about this film is that it's just small scale. Even though World War II was such a big event in our world's history, it's very small scale, surprisingly. And it's not something I was expecting going into it. And it's kind of like the same reason I love Come and See, is that it takes that approach of showing a more smaller village in Japan, and you see how that just affects everyone in that village, and that it's terrible. It's horrible. The scene I think I think really breaks my heart is where Setsuko finds out about her mother's death, even after Seika told his auntie not to tell her. But again, you can understand why she would maybe tell her to maybe make her a bit stronger, but you see that it really doesn't. And it instead just affects her mentally and emotionally. And the line that she says, where she says, or she says it later on in the film, where she says, "Why do fireflies have to die so early?" I don't know. I feel like that line comes into play again later. It's a very heartbreaking foreshadowing that would again come into play later on. But oh man, that
Seeing their mom in the beginning when she's in the hospital is an image that sticks with me still, and it was hard to watch again. But watching it, it breaks the mold, I guess, people would put on this movie as and strictly an animation. I think it was something about seeing his mom. You see her wrapped up in these bandages. All you can really see are like her eyes and her mouth. And seeing that in animation, I think just something that has that effect that maybe, besides seeing the real thing, seeing it in live action, if they were to do this, I don't know if they could get that across. The fact that people drew this and they came up with this, or whether it happened, true story, you feel the emotion in the drawings. You feel it in everything in this movie. Yeah, again, it's the other side to the war movies that we see where, like I said, there are very real good and evil. This is just showing that the horrors of war are simply atrocities, dark moments in our history. And there were people there. There were people that we impacted, and seeing this really helps you come to terms with what exactly war causes. But yeah, seeing the mom, and you see her, first off, she's kind of clinging to life, and they're trying to get her help and move her to a hospital. However, later on, you see that it's gotten worse. You see just a very graphic image of like maggots on her and stuff. And yeah, it hurts to see. You see Sika, you see his reaction, sorry.
Okay.
And you can tell he knows it's his mom. He's processing it. Later on, it's such a quick moment. However, it's so effective. Sorry, I'm just it's hard to talk about this without
it's okay. Take your time.
crying or getting emotional. You see later on they had brought the Fireflies into their new home, which is pretty much just a shelter in a little hill. It's meant for hiding in when bombs go off. No one's there, but they just kind of set up that we're gonna call this place home now, because they don't have anything.
After the verbal and mental abuse that they got from their aunts when they told her, the aunt told them to like leave. She didn't actually think they were gonna leave, but they leave because it's just such a toxic environment to be in. They don't have anywhere else to go.
And his sister's like doesn't want to go in there because it's dark and stuff. So he collects those fireflies to bring in and provide light and comfort in a dark place. And it works, and they end up falling asleep and everything. However, the next day, and the scene ends with it, one of the fireflies light goes out and it dies. And when they wake up, obviously all of them had pretty much passed away. So they collect them, and she collects them, and she's burying them and everything. And again, it's such a quick shot. She piles them up and puts them in the dirt and everything. And earlier in the film, you saw them piling up people and basically putting them in the dirt to burn them. I'm telling you, it's like a second, maybe 2 seconds. You see them toss their mom into that pit. It's super quick, but you know it's her. You see the bandages and everything, and it's just like, that was hard to watch. And obviously his reaction, he just starts crying because you see him like pretty much processing, really seeing kind of how insignificant he feels in this war, because obviously he has some stakes in it. His dad is fighting in the war and everything, but I think he really starts to feel his place in everything, him and his sister's place in everything, because it's like the whole point leading up to that, they're treated as like pretty much pests almost. Like they don't have a place. People don't care for them. They're not treated as like people, and they're seen as like basically a burden, and no one really wants to deal with them, like the aunt.
The doctor later on in the film, you know, he just says, "Oh, just eat more.
Yeah.
Just feed her." You know, that scene too, where Sika is basically just yelling at him, just like bursting out, because, you know, he's been bottling up anger and sadness for like most of the movie.
Yeah.
And you just see him blow up, and it's, God, you know, it's like no one wants to help them out almost, you know? It's like, it feels like people can do very limited to just help them out in any way, shape, or form, but no one just has any sympathy like whatsoever. Which breaks my heart, I think, even more, you know?
Yeah. And this film goes to those places, and you really have to remind yourself, like, this is animation, you know? Yeah. At no point while watching this is that the primary focus. It goes
beyond an animation.
It
like,
just feels like
God.
that was the expression they chose, you know? It didn't really feel like there was any, because people put a kind of a hindrance around animation. They treat it as,
it's just
like
for
a
kids.
lesser form.
Yeah.
And that's why everyone needs to watch this movie. Like,
yeah,
it's so much more. There's so much you can convey. There is real weight to what people might just call drawings, you know? There is significance behind it.
I just don't feel like you could even make this movie in live action, you know, especially because, like, how are you going to tell a kid actor to do half of this stuff? You know, there's no way, you know, there's no way you could do that, you know, and I think that's why this film works so much, is because you're using the medium of animation to tell a story that could be considered unfilmable, honestly, you know, and Isao Takahata, he takes advantage of that, and he makes a really incredible human story with it, where the emotions are a lot more subtler, you know. You can just even tell just from even their reactions, you know, that like they're going through a lot, you know.
Yeah.
And I just can't see how you could do that in a live action. And again, I think Isao Takahata, I think, is a really underappreciated filmmaker that I don't really feel like ever got the flowers he deserved, because man, like this and a lot of his other films, like he really captures like the human condition and just like these character studies really well. You know, he's able to find a lot of emotion in the characters. You know, his films are a lot more grounded compared to a lot of Hayao Miyazaki's films. But even though they're much more grounded, they're much more character focused. And he definitely puts a lot of emphasis on the more smaller, mundane little things, like I was mentioning in the film, with like a lot more of those lighthearted moments, like with the Fireflies, like with them going to the beach. You know, they play such a significant role in the film, whereas most films would probably just notice it for like 2 seconds and then just move on to the next thing, or just show it in like a quick montage type of thing. But Takahata, I don't really feel like does that at all. And he tells those stories, you know, he tells those stories that are like most directors I don't think would make something like this, you know. And I think he did a really fantastic job with this film. And I think it blows me away too that like this was his Ghibli debut. Like this was the first film he made for Studio Ghibli, which I think is insane.
It holds, again, such a special place in Ghibli's history. People talk about this movie. It's always mentioned. And again, it's something that I really think everyone should see this at least once, just to really know not even just the history of everything, not even just the other sides of conflict and war, the atrocities, but also just that what animation can do. It's so much more than what people might think, you know. Obviously, animation's becoming a little more mainstream today and maybe less looked down upon, but this guy really paved the way for that with this movie. And it's like something I've never seen before. I've seen this movie twice, and I think I'm only gonna watch it one more time when I show my kids, and that's it. I really don't think I would ever have the desire to ever watch this or put it on. It really is hard to sit there and see this. One thing that I appreciate the movie for, it shows, obviously there's a nice allegory between the boy and how Japan was at that time during the war. They're very prideful. They didn't want to give up. Surrender was pretty much the last option. They were going to exhaust everything before they ever thought to surrender. More people were going to die, all strictly because of their pride in who they were as people. And that's the allegory we see. He doesn't want to go back to his aunt. He can't put that pride aside. And the film didn't need to do that, but it does help show that obviously his sister's is dying. He can go back to that house and try to remedy things, but he doesn't. And that was very much Japan's mentality at the time. They'd rather have more people die than they would just to surrender and just simply admit defeat and have it be over with. To show that in a main character and help convey that idea to people. I know Western audience would probably point that out as to why didn't he just go back to his aunt? Why didn't he just simply go there? You know, some people might, it's like, well, your sister's dying. Like, why? Come on. But again, like that was what he was trying to show with this character is that wasn't an option, you know? And that was very much a part of Japan's history, and especially involvement in World War II. They exhausted everything before they gave up, and many, many, many innocent lives were lost because of that, you know. And obviously that's how I feel like the Fireflies are portrayed as just like innocent people, you know. They have no say in how this goes. They chose to go to war. They're simply just citizens, bystanders, and they get killed.
There's a line in this film that I think perfectly encapsulates what you're talking about. And it's where the farmer is telling Siika when he's like trying to steal the crops, he tells him, swallow your pride and go apologize to her. And I think that line, perfectly encapsulates what pride can do to someone.
Yeah.
This is what happens if you don't go and apologize. This is like the worst outcome.
Yeah.
And it's with the decision that he makes, you know, and it's an understandable decision why he makes that, because he is willing to sacrifice everything just for her so she could be happy in any way, shape, or form. And you see that because they weren't really happy when they were at the auntie's house, you know. They got verbally and mentally abused in the worst ways possible. And they escaped that, but that sacrifice is they don't really have anyone else, and the closest they have to a home is a tunnel, which is, they make the best of it in any way that they can. And I think it's just, again, very heartbreaking and really, wow, like I just can't believe they made that decision, Did you want to talk about the ending?
Yeah, atrocities of war and everything. Obviously, when people pass away, there's always there's a respect paid towards those deaths and everything. However, in war and things like that, there may not be people left to pay respect to those who are leaving this world. And seeing him basically getting treated like trash pretty much shows you that the moment where people pass on and stuff, there might not be people around to help them through that process. Obviously, they go to that place, he passes on, and you see the shot of them together, and there is almost, like a feeling of levity a little bit. However, when it ties back into the beginning, they don't re-show it at the end. They kind of leave it up to you to remember. The tin is thrown in the beginning like trash, but the implication is actually there in the beginning, because once it's thrown, you see her character the sister wake up standing there with the fireflies and everything. And you find out later exactly what happened. She passed away. He ended up cremating her and putting her ashes in that tin. And for that to just get discarded and seen as nothing, again, the ramifications of war and things like that,
they're just insignificant in the grand scheme
devalues human life. And to show that in such a impactful way, especially in animation, really, you haven't seen anything like it. And it's hard to watch, but I am glad it's there. I'm glad people can experience this to some degree. Obviously, it's not the real thing, but just to help understand exactly what was going on at that time,
Mm-hmm. I think that ending's really powerful, with them looking at like the city of Japan, and it's all built. It really shows that, like, even through all of the hardships and everything and the insignificance that the characters are thrown into, it's still just hopeful. And it shows like a bright future of the city, even through, like, yeah, it's going to be tough to get through, and it's, you're going to have all of these horrible things happen, but nonetheless, Japan still survived, and they still were able to pick those pieces back up and build an even brighter future. At least that's kind of the interpretation I got from the ending. And and even though, yes, we did lose those people and everything, there's still hope for the future. There's still hope for everything, and why we shouldn't go to war, why we shouldn't be fighting, but it's really, really fantastic. And again, it comes back full circle to everything that you've watched in the film. And I think that the film does a really incredible job of, like, I know I kind of say this a lot, but the end is really built into the beginning with this film. It's a hard film to really talk about, because how do you really spoil a movie like this? The whole film is a spoiler, From the moment it begins, it's like you already have an idea of like what's going to happen and everything. And a scene that I feel like is just so heartbreaking, that I think adds, that just shows the characters and the situation they're in, is when Sieka just sees Setsuko lying on the ground, and he doesn't know if she's dead or not. He almost like just starts bursting into tears, because he doesn't know what to do in that situation, because he's never dealt with that before. And again, I think the film just does an incredible job of portraying it, and just portraying those moments in such a respectful way that doesn't feel manipulative. It doesn't feel like you're watching a movie almost, And the music in this film is just haunting, with those pianos, and just even the like sound design. Like even when you hear those air raids, you're just like, you tense up. You're so terrified. Your heart just starts to beat fast. You start having all this anxiety of like, are they going to make it out of this alive or not? Are they going to be able to see the next day? And I think the film just, it keeps you on the edge of your seat in that sense. They're surviving in any way, shape, or form that they can, even through everything.
Again, I just encourage everyone to check this movie out. Please just watch it.
I know it's a tough watch. I know we're asking a lot from you guys, but this film needs to be seen.
It's been almost 40 years, over 40 years since this movie came out. Please, it's getting a wider release here in a couple weeks. And again, I encourage you to watch it. I encourage you to open yourself up to experience this story. It can be hard. It can be very much a challenge, but it's worth watching. Again, it still stands the test of time many, many years after it's come out. Again, to me, this is not like a normal movie where I talk about positives, negatives. Again, I don't even want to use the term like spoiler because I feel like that's implying enjoyment. And again, I didn't feel enjoyment while watching this movie. So I feel like it breaks the molds of the term movie. It has a very, very profound effect on the viewers. This movie deserves to be seen. And yeah, it leaves you speechless, and it can be hard to come out of that. I get why people may want to avoid it. When you go to those dark places, it's hard to come back. It's hard to view the world in the way you used to before you had seen something like that. However, it can give you that perspective that the challenges we face in life and things may not be as bad as we make it. Did you have anything else you wanted to say?
Yeah, I've been kind of dreading, I haven't watched this for such a long time, and I don't know. I guess I want to just say I'm glad I finally got around to watching this, because I feel like there's really no other war film like this, honestly. It's very unique, for sure. It's an emotional ride. You feel mostly sadness, but you also feel just really angry a lot of the time. And even through those two emotions, there's still some moments of hope, and there's still some lighthearted levity that is used throughout. And I feel like it's used in such a respectful and tasteful manner that never feels manipulative at all. It's very just natural, and it's just genuine. It's honest. It's real. At first, I thought about, I was just more angry thinking about this film and everything, and just all the things that they go through. But I think like the more I've thought about it now, and just even me talking about it, like I'm trying to just hold back even tears, because it's just it's very, very powerful. Yeah, I think I'm just at a loss for words for this. Yeah, this is essential cinema, honestly.
Mm-hmm. So please give it a watch. It comes out here in a couple weeks. And that was one of the reasons I had recommended it, is because I knew it was going to get a wider release. Unlike other Ghibli films, the distribution for this movie is a little different. So it wasn't on streaming for a little bit, and the rights kind of float around. But recently, I guess Netflix
picked it up,
purchased the rights for the streaming. So I really hope people give this a watch. I hope, it's seen, and I hope it's heard. Maybe a piece of advice or something, like have something planned to do after this, or another movie to watch that maybe can pull you out of that a little bit, to help bring your mood up. I guess that's the only real advice I would try to give before watching this movie, so you don't stay in that rut. And let us know what you guys think. This is, again, it breaks the boundary, I think, of film in general. It's, again, classified as one of the most important films ever made. So maybe with this resurgence of animation among younger people, because obviously we had grew up with animation, so I think we always had seen it as more than just drawings. For us, it was something different, a different side of animation. So yeah, I guess I like After Sun. I mean, I don't really have any questions. This is kind of a hard 2-part episode that I guess I figured we talked about. After Sun was really hard. I was like, well, I wanted to talk about this movie just to put it in the conversation, like get people to experience something that maybe you wouldn't normally watch. And yeah, it's been a hard 2 episodes to obviously watch films like this. I know when we started out, we have more lighthearted stuff that goes on, but these 2 have just probably been some of the more harder watches that we have had or probably ever going to have.
These were probably like the 2 hardest episodes, I think, to record, honestly, and just edit. And
it's
everything.
hard to discuss this, but to me, it's worth it if I can get people to, watch something they wouldn't normally watch. So please, it comes out in a couple weeks. I really recommend it. Yeah. Sorry for the overall somberness of this episode. It's just part of it. It's
not a really fun movie to talk about. It's not like we can laugh and be like having a good time with it.
Exactly. But thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for putting up with my point of views, my takes, because they're all pretty awful. I guess to end things maybe a little more lighthearted, we have some great stuff coming in the next couple months. We have more guests we're going to have on. And we're very, very excited about it. I'm very excited about our guests, so please check it out. We got Halloween coming up, so we got horror movies and things that we're going to discuss. And some are good, some are classics that you may know. Some are also maybe some stuff you haven't heard or even know of its existence. Some are funny, some are cheesy, I guess, but it's what we love in horror movies, and I'm very, very excited to talk about it. I know Walid has a hard time with horror movies and getting scared. So,
yeah, I get scared easily. So
thank you for putting yourself through it for me.
Hey, I'm a trooper, man.
Because again, it's one of my favorite genres.
Yeah.
So look forward to that. We're going to be starting that next episode. What was your first recommendation?
Well, I thought I originally had another one in mind, but I was like, I'll save it for maybe the next recommendation. So this is one of the trippiest, craziest horror films. Probably the craziest horror film I have ever seen in my entire life. And the film I am going to go with is a film called House, or Hausu in Japanese. It is from Nobuhiko Obayashi. Hopefully I said his name right. It is quite possibly my favorite horror movie ever made. There is really no other movie like it. And it is hilarious, but it's also kind of terrifying and kind of sad at some points. But nonetheless, it is a trip. And I would just say try not to look too much up about this film, because even the spoilers for this film you wouldn't even believe are like in this film. Like if I even mentioned some of the things that happen, you'd be like, wait, what? But yeah, House from 1977 from Nobuhiko Obayashi. So if you guys don't want to be spoiled for that film, watch it before the next episode comes out. And that's how we are. That's what I'm going to kick off the Halloween season with, is Yeah, house.
So join us on our Halloween incursion. Grab yourself a pumpkin spice latte, put on your headphones, and get into that mood. Because here come the scares. I sound so dumb. I'm very sorry about that. Great. But thank you guys. Thank you guys for joining us. And we'll see you on the next one.
Ooh, good day and good night, mates.
That's good.